Imagine being among the first humans to walk the earth, living in a small band of just a few dozen close-knit companions. Your world extends only to neighboring groups, sometimes cooperating, sometimes competing. As you spend your days hunting, gathering, and securing life's basic necessities, food, survival, and simple pleasures. The dangers you face are immediate and primal, unfiltered by laws, governments, economies, or religious institutions. Civilization as we know it doesn't exist. There are no bureaucracies, no markets, no organized belief systems. Now consider, is this existence happier than our modern lives? It's more or less satisfying, more peaceful or more precarious, more ethical or more brutal? The simplicity of this ancient way of life stands in stark contrast to our complex world, inviting us to question whether human progress has truly improved our fundamental well-being. Without the trappings of civilization, would we find greater contentment in life's raw essentials? Or would we miss the comforts and securities we've built over millennia? This thought experiment challenges us to examine what truly constitutes human flourishing. There's compelling evidence suggesting life in pre-civilized times wouldn't have been more virtuous or peaceful than modern existence. If anything, you'd likely have faced more frequent and immediate threats of localized violence. Yet this primitive existence offered a striking simplicity. Unburdened by the countless wants and complexities that define contemporary life, when comparing these radically different ways of being, it's far from clear which offers greater happiness or satisfaction. Which version of human existence might be considered fundamentally preferable? Beyond this historical comparison lies a deeper philosophical inquiry into human nature itself. Does civilization represent genuine moral progress, or merely a sophisticated veneer over enduring human flaws? Does technological advancement enrich our experience or distance us from more authentic ways of living? These questions probe the very heart of what it means to be human, whether our nature is essentially good or corrupt, whether complexity improves or diminishes our condition, and whether what we call progress truly alleviates human suffering or simply reshapes it into new, more subtle forms. The value of this thought experiment lies not in definitive answers, but in its power to reveal these enduring paradoxes at the core of human existence. It's tempting to view history both personal and collective through rose-tinted glasses. The modern world gives us ample reason for disillusionment. Devastating wars and nuclear threats, large-scale ideological hatreds, glaring economic disparities, unrealistic societal pressures, and invasive technologies that often amplify loneliness, anxiety, and irrational fears. Yet few have idealized humanity's primitive past as fervently as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher who helped shape Romanticism itself. Painting an almost mythical portrait of early humans, Rousseau wrote, "Picture man as nature first made him an animal less strong than some, less swift than others, but overall, the most harmoniously designed of all. Watch him quench his thirst at a stream, satisfy his hunger beneath an oak tree, and make his bed where he found his meal. In this state, every need is met." This utopian vision captures his belief in humanity's original innocence, stark contrast to the complexities and corruptions of civilization. Rousseau passionately believed humanity flourished more authentically in its pre-civilized state, viewing societal development not as progress but as corruption. Born in Geneva in 1712, his life began tragically when his mother died from childbirth complications, just 9 days after his birth, abandoned by his father at age 10. Rousseau endured an unstable, lonely youth shuttled between relatives. First his uncle, then a pastor, later a watchmaker, and eventually a noblewoman, who briefly became his romantic partner. In 1740, his relocation to France to study music theory proved transformative, immersing him in the intellectual ferment of the French Enlightenment. This philosophical movement deeply shaped his thinking during a period when 18th century Europe was undergoing radical transformation. Societies were growing more prosperous, technologically advanced, commercially driven, and globally connected through what historians now call the Age of Enlightenment. The prevailing belief of Rousseau's era celebrated progress as inherently beneficial society. It was thought to be advancing from primitive ignorance toward enlightenment and prosperity. But Rousseau harbored deep doubts. In 1750, while reading the Mercure de France, he encountered an essay competition, asking, "Have the arts and sciences improved morality?" This simple question struck him like lightning. He later described experiencing an epiphany that transformed his worldview instantly. His winning entry, Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, launched his philosophical career and would ultimately reshape Western thought. In this seminal work and later writings like Discourse on Inequality, Rousseau made his revolutionary argument. Civilization didn't purify humanity, it corrupted it. He idealized the state of nature, humanity's original condition before social and political structures emerged. Here he believed life was simpler, more authentic, and morally purer. People enjoyed genuine connections with each other and nature. Guided by what he called Amour de Soi, a healthy self-love, focused on survival and well-being without harming others. Rousseau fundamentally believed in humanity's innate goodness, asserting that people are naturally kind and cooperative. Civilization, he argued, replaced this natural virtue with Amour-Propre, a toxic form of self-love manifesting as pride, greed, and vanity. His famous declaration that man is naturally good and only becomes wicked through social institutions challenged the Enlightenment's faith in progress, suggesting society's structures themselves created moral decay rather than curing it. His radical view would make Rousseau one of history's most influential critics of civilization. Rousseau argued that civilization breeds inequality by creating artificial hierarchies of class, power, and material possessions. These social constructs force people into endless competition, constantly measuring themselves against others and societal standards of success. Rather than developing authentic self-awareness, individuals come to see themselves only through society's distorted mirror, their identity and worth dictated by external validation rather than inner truth. This system, Rousseau warned, corrupts human nature by replacing genuine needs with insatiable social desires. People become trapped in performance, obsessed with appearances, accumulation, and dominance, while losing touch with their true selves. As he poignantly observed, primitive people live for themselves. Civilized people exist only through others' opinions, deriving their sense of self entirely from external judgment. This constant social comparison erodes moral foundations as people chase ever-expanding artificial needs created by the very society that promises fulfillment. Rousseau's groundbreaking 1762 work, The Social Contract, expanded his philosophical critique into political theory. Building on his views of human nature and society's corrupting influence, he developed a revolutionary social contract model. Unlike traditional theories that placed sovereignty with monarchs or elites, Rousseau argued for collective self-rule through what he called the general will, the unified consensus of citizens pursuing the common good. His famous declaration that man is born free, yet everywhere he is in chains, captured his vision for liberating humanity from oppressive social structures. Rousseau believed that by rationally cooperating to establish fair societal conditions, people could simultaneously achieve collective security and individual freedom. In his ideal system, citizens would voluntarily subordinate personal interests to the greater good, not through coercion, but because an enlightened society's needs naturally align with each member's true interests. As he explained, the challenge was creating an association that defends each member's person and property through collective force, while allowing individuals to obey only themselves and remain as free as before. This delicate balance between community and liberty became his enduring contribution to political philosophy. Rousseau's theories present significant practical challenges, especially for modern, complex societies. While his vision of inherently good people cooperating through a general will sounds noble, its implementation at scale raises serious questions. In large populations, how could every citizen possibly participate meaningfully in shaping all societal structures? Realistically, most individuals lack either the interest or capacity to engage at this level. This would inevitably lead to power concentrating among a knowledgeable elite, effectively recreating the very hierarchies Rousseau sought to eliminate. The foundation of Rousseau's philosophy, humanity's innate goodness and cooperative nature, also warrants scrutiny. He assumes an optimistic view of human nature, where people will naturally prioritize collective good over self-interest. However, history offers little evidence for such universal benevolence. Thomas Hobbes, the 17th century English philosopher, presented a starkly contrasting perspective. He famously described the state of nature as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, believing humans inherently competitive and violent. Without strong central authority, Hobbes predicted a perpetual war of all against all, marked by fear and conflict. His solution was a social contract surrendering individual freedoms to an absolute sovereign who could maintain order against humanity's destructive tendencies. Where Rousseau saw chains to break, Hobbes saw necessary restraints preventing chaos. Hobbes fundamentally reverses Rousseau's critique of civilization, what Rousseau saw as societal corruption. Hobbes identifies as humanity's innate condition that social structures must constantly restrain. Both perspectives, however, invite serious scrutiny when examined closely. Stepping back from their ideological battle, we confront a profound uncertainty about human nature itself. The so-called state of nature remains an enigma. We can neither verify its characteristics nor cleanly separate it from civilization's influence. Rousseau's paradox becomes apparent. If humans were originally good, yet inevitably created corrupt systems, can we truly call that nature good? It's like praising a bomb simply because its fuse hasn't yet detonated. Conversely, Hobbes faces his own contradiction. If humans were naturally violent yet capable of creating order, does that really constitute inherent wickedness? These philosophical positions reveal more about their creators' worldviews than about any universal human truth. We lack the means to objectively assess humanity's primal state. We can't interview our earliest ancestors or isolate human nature from environmental factors. Ultimately, both theories represent thought experiments rather than definitive explanations, reminding us that the essence of humanity resists simple categorization as fundamentally good or evil. Human nature defies simple categorization; it's far too intricate, as is existence itself, along with the countless systems and motivations that shape society. Yet amid this vast complexity, one undeniable truth remains. Look at what we've built. Look how far we've traveled. It's the mere existence of civilization with its moral codes, social order, and philosophical introspections. Nothing short of miraculous. Our journey hasn't been purely virtuous or purely destructive, but it has been undeniably monumental. Layer by layer, we've constructed towering civilizations, fueled by hope, innovation, cooperation, arrogance, and reason only, to tear some down with those same forces. Perhaps humanity isn't fundamentally good or evil, but fundamentally capable. Our only true constants are our staggering potential and the labyrinthine nature of our choices. We are still reckoning with our own power, still maturing. Yet even with time, we may never fully shed our dual nature. As Alexander Solzhenitsyn profoundly observed, the line between good and evil cuts through every human heart, not between nations, classes, or ideologies. It shifts within us over time. No heart is wholly corrupt, some goodness endures. And none is entirely pure, shadow lingers. This eternal tension defines us.